Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that could be an absolute game changer for the UK's incredible orchestral community, Orchestra Tax Relief. A massive thank you to the team at Tax Accountant for putting this together, because we're about to break down how you can unlock some serious arts funding.
Right, let's cut straight to the chase. What if I told you that your orchestra could get a significant cash payment directly from HMRC this year? And no, I'm not talking about a complicated loan. I'm talking about a real spendable cash credit from the government. Sound too good to be true? Stick with me.
So here's our roadmap for this discussion. We'll start with the basics. What is OTR? Then we'll figure out if you qualify, run through the numbers, and walk you through the claim process step by step. And finally, we'll cover some pro tips and how to get expert help. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, our overture. What on earth is Orchestra Tax Relief, or OTR, and why should it be on your radar? Let's get the fundamentals down. In simple terms, OTR is a special kind of corporation tax relief built to support the arts. But here's the really crucial part. It's not just about shaving a bit off your tax bill. If your production makes a loss, or even just breaks even, you can get a payable cash credit. You heard me right. It's basically a government funding stream hidden inside the tax system.
And just how significant is this? Well, from April 2025, the rate for touring productions is a massive 45%. Let that sink in. That's nearly half of your qualifying production costs potentially coming back to you as cash. This is a huge incentive to keep the music playing across the country.
And if you're thinking, does anyone actually use this? The answer is a resounding yes. It's already supporting over 175 orchestras. We're talking about £25 million in support from the Treasury every single year, with hundreds of claims getting processed. This is a real, established, and vital part of the UK arts funding landscape.
The scheme has only gotten better over time. It kicked off at 25% in 2016, got a big boost to help during the pandemic, and now, the best part, these fantastic higher rates are here to stay. Starting in April 2025, you can reliably plan your budgets around 40% for non-touring and that incredible 45% for touring shows.
All right, so you're probably getting excited about the potential here. The next big question is, do you qualify? Now, this is where we need to pay close attention. Stay with me because getting these details right is the most important step, and it's where people often stumble.
First up, your company. You've got to be a UK company that pays corporation tax. That's the easy part. The key is, you have to be the Orchestral Production Company, the OPC. What does that mean? It means you're in the driver's seat. You're the one planning the concerts, making the big creative calls, and paying the musicians and suppliers directly. You can't just be a subcontractor.
Next, the concert itself. It has its own checklist. You need at least 12 instrumentalists, and they have to be the main attraction, not just a backing band for a singer. It needs to be mostly acoustic, performed live for a paying audience or for educational reasons. And here's a big heads up. There's a new rule since April 2024. At least 10% of your production costs must be spent right here in the UK.
Let's make this super simple. A classical symphony in a concert hall where people buy tickets? That's a definite yes. Your orchestra playing as part of a big corporate brand launch or in a competition? Probably not. The main goal has to be the artistic performance, not selling something or just making a recording.
Okay, let's assume you've ticked all the eligibility boxes. Now for the really exciting bit, the crescendo. Let's crunch the numbers and see how your production costs can be turned into a serious cash injection for your orchestra.
Everything hinges on a term called core expenditure. Think of it as all the money you spend before the curtain goes up on opening night. It's the rehearsals, the travel, the prep, everything that gets you to that first performance. And remember, that new rule means this has to be UK-based spending.
So what's in and what's out? This is absolutely critical to get right. On the in list, you have things like hiring rehearsal spaces and, crucially, paying your musicians for those rehearsals. On the out list, you have things that happen on the night, like the performance fees, marketing, or hiring the main venue. Separating these is key to a successful claim.
All right, enough theory. Let's make this tangible. We're going to follow a fictional orchestra, let's call them the Liverpool Philharmonic Players, as they plan a 10-day UK tour. We'll see exactly how the numbers work out for them.
So, our players have done their homework. They've gone through all their invoices and spreadsheets and calculated that their total UK-based core expenditure, all the prep work for the tour, comes to exactly £120,000. That's our starting number. Now, here comes the magic. The relief gives you 100% enhancement on your core costs.
That's just a fancy way of saying HMRC lets you double your deductible expenses for tax purposes. So that $120,000 they spent on their tax return, it suddenly becomes a $240,000 deduction.
So how does that become actual cash? Well, that massive deduction creates a taxable loss on paper. The orchestra can then choose to surrender that loss back to HMRC in exchange for a cash payment. For their touring production, they surrender it at the 45% rate. The result? A check from HMRC for £94,500. Real money right back in their bank account to fund the next project.
The numbers look amazing, right? But I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but how do I actually get the money? So, let's move on to the practical stuff, your step-by-step guide to making the claim.
We can break it down into 4 straightforward steps. First, double-check that both your company and your concert are eligible. Step 2, and this is non-negotiable. You have to track and categorize every penny of your core costs. Third, you do the calculation we just walked through. And finally, you file the right paperwork with HMRC.
Okay, quick pro tip, and I need everyone to listen closely to this one. As of April 2024, there is a brand new mandatory form called the Additional Information Form, or AIF. You must submit this with your tax return. Let me be crystal clear. If you don't submit this form, your claim will be automatically rejected. No form, no relief. Simple as that.
All right, so you know the basics. But now for the encore performance. This is what separates a decent claim from a fantastic one. We're going to cover some insider strategies to maximize what you get back. And just as importantly, how to avoid waiving any red flags at HMRC.
Want to level up your claim? Here are a few tips. If you have a series of concerts, you can often bundle them into one claim, which saves a ton of admin. A huge one. Make sure your musician contracts have separate, clear payments for rehearsals versus the actual performance. Keep pristine digital records of everything, and try to spend your UK-based money early to easily hit that 10% threshold. And now, what not to do. Avoid these common mistakes that can get you into trouble. Don't mix up your rehearsal and performance costs. Never, ever use vague labels like MISC expenses. Be specific. We've talked about the AIF, but seriously, don't forget it. And double-check you're not claiming for non-UK costs or for a concert that doesn't meet that 12-player minimum.
Let me tell you a quick cautionary tale. A real orchestra put in a claim for £75,000. HMRC decided to audit them, and their records were a mess. The result? They lost half of their claim. That's over £37,000 gone, just because of poor bookkeeping. The lesson is simple but powerful. Keep records of everything. It's your ultimate defense.
We have covered a lot of ground. So for our grand finale, let's bring it all together and talk about how you can navigate this whole process with a bit of expert help, just like a conductor guiding you through a complex piece.
So, if you only remember 4 things from today, make it these. 1. OTR is a huge 40-45% tax credit. 2. You must be the main production company with a qualifying concert. 3. That new AIF form is mandatory. And 4. Perfect records are your best friend.
Look, I get it. This can feel complex and maybe even a little intimidating. But the good news is you don't have to be a tax expert to benefit from this. That's what specialists are for. The team at Pro Tax Accountant lives and breathes this stuff, and they can conduct your claim from start to finish to make sure it's pitch perfect.
So if you're thinking this could be for you, but you want some expert guidance, I strongly suggest you reach out to them. The easiest way is to send a message on WhatsApp or call them on 07985 689912. You can also drop them an email at info@protexaccountant.co.uk.
And for more fantastic, easy-to-understand insights on all sorts of tax topics, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the Pro Tax Accountant channel on YouTube.
I'll leave you with one final thought. Now that you know this funding exists, take a moment to dream a little. What could this mean for your orchestra? What ambitious tour, what new commission, what incredible community project could this money finally bring to life? That's what this is all about. Thanks so much for tuning in.